Welcome back to Notes from the Design Desk. My name is Corey Ecker. We're here with MTNBlaze Branding. And over the past week, I've been pretty busy working on some sort of codification of various processes for MTNBlaze Branding. We're sort of building out the how in the question of developing. And what that looks like is sort of getting the website set up, going through and setting up project management, setting up, how things will happen from front to back end, and how, we handle customers, because that's the most important step. I think that's the one thing that's holding me back from really going full throttle on this thing is that I want to make sure that I understand how a project will move step by step through the workflow to give the ultimate experience for the customer. That's what I really want, is to sort of be able to sort of make it a mindless experience where the customer comes in and says, hey, this is what I want, and it's really almost like falling water, where you just go through the process and the design sort of builds itself out through the process, because it would be logic to just sort of arrive at what the customer is wanting, because with our understanding and our expertise coupled with the client's vision, it's just very simple to get to that point, and that's what I want to achieve over the next couple weeks, is clarifying and understanding what that looks like. So that's kind of what I've been working on. I've been spending a lot of time writing, because it's like creating software. Writing is a lot like coding, where you have to write the formula that then becomes the process. Without that, you're really just shooting in the dark, and there's nothing actually happening in the company. I'm surprised by the amount of entrepreneurs and the amount of business leaders out there who are running companies built on close to nothing. There's a lot of companies that, when you get into those businesses and you look at what is actually happening on the back end, it's all a lot of hearsay. It's based on a lot of conversations that happen behind closed doors and then are reiterated through telephone to the employee, and the employee has to sort of interpret that information while dealing with clients at the same time, and that just sets everyone up for failure. So I think going in, if I'm able to sort of write out all of the processes, test those processes in action, and then make adjustments as I go, while also codifying those adjustments so that there's documentation of what those processes are, we're ultimately going to arrive at a place where everything's going to make a lot more sense later. And so there'll be a strong foundation of written material, code, if you will, system coding that will then become the regulations and processes that we follow on a daily basis, and that's just going to make us stronger later. But as an agency, it sort of helps us define our purpose. It helps us define our function, and reinforces our value. So if a customer or a client like yourself, who's watching this video, comes to us and says, hey, we need this thing, why do we choose you? We have a really clear vision statement that we can reference to explain what our function is, why we function that way, and how we're going to execute the project. And it becomes sort of a non-issue. The customer can say, I see that you're doing this, your purpose is reinforced, this value is reinforced, I feel comfortable coming on to your team and working with you moving forward, because you've really explained the function. I think that's what people want to hear when they work with somebody, is what is the function of this thing? Why do I put money into it? What is the context? What is the story? and why should we engage with this? And so while I'm sort of codifying these processes for a foundational purpose, it then becomes the story of the company. The story of the company then becomes what we sell, and then what we sell is what the customer sees and engages with. So that is why I've been writing a lot. So I think that it kind of is interesting, because I think writing is the coding of ideas. So you can have sort of an ephemeral idea, a sort of abstract concept of what you want to do, but actually writing out what you want to do in detail makes it reality, So I was thinking about Frankenstein this morning, and you can have the idea of a monster coming back to life, and you can think of a scientist in his madness, and you can think about the story and where you want it to go, but it's not real, it's not codified until you write the novel and make it whole. So writing at its foundational levels is the codification of reality. It's an important skill, and it really separates you from the other. To be able to write and to be able to control story and be able to control narrative and be able to code reality really is a weapon in this day and age. It's strength. So that's why I think it's important, not only in defining the processes of a company, telling the story of a company, selling to the world. It all is writing. It's all story. It's all creating written systems that make sense on paper and can be put out into the world. So that's my personal philosophy on writing, and it's the process that I'm engaging with now, and I'm really excited to see how that's going to play out as I start writing these different concepts out. So yeah, that's where I'm at with MTNBlaze Branding. But I think it's also you're writing this algorithm almost that gets coded and written, and then you put that in place, and then it becomes sort of a self-replicating algorithm. I think that's been a sort of a buzzword that's been tossed around a lot lately, is this idea that an algorithm that, when left on its own devices, will self-replicate and put out to another algorithm. It will sort of mitosis itself into another version of itself. So you lay the foundation, and then that can then become the product that lays the foundation for your clientele. Especially if you're working with branding and you're creating brand concepts for the client. They then sort of take a piece of the algorithm that you've generated for your business and are able to sort of apply it to their business. So like Subway, the algorithm is for making sandwiches, and then the result is sandwiches. So they have to build their business around how to build a better sandwich. Once you make that sandwich for the customer, they get a piece of that algorithm in the form of a sandwich. Because everything that the business has done to make that sandwich has been to build around the benefit of making sandwiches. I don't know if that makes sense, but the whole algorithm, the self-replicating algorithm of Subway, is the codified process of making a better sandwich. You don't have to like sandwiches to engage with this story, but the making of sandwich is the process, and the result is the sandwich that the customer takes with them. So at MTNBlaze Branding, we are developing brands, we're developing merchandise, and we're developing systems of media to sell that merchandise. Our algorithm is to make better processes, so we need to define our process. That process gets codified. We create better processes that create processes for our customer. So our system needs to be something where it will generate other systems. it's sort of like 4D chess. It's like a tesseract moving in on itself and then creating another tesseract. So these are just some things I've been thinking about. These are some ideas that I've been playing with. I've been thinking about, like, developing pricing structures, and there's a lot of information about how when you're developing a pricing structure, the danger is that you're going to sink too much cost in time into a project. So the better route is to just give flat rates. And I've been investigating flat rates. So if we can define the average cost of a project with a built-in like buffer cost, like to compensate already for the potential like scope creep, so you're working with a client that's only interested in ordering a minimum amount of services, but it turns into sort of a game where they keep asking to see more options. There needs to be a buffer built into that project to compensate for that. It either comes in the form of like an additional charge added on later, or it becomes something where there's a percent buffer built in that allows for that maneuvering to happen early on, and so then they would make the deposit and then be able to sort of take the project in any direction they wanted because they've already sunk cost on their end, so that we're able to sunk cost in time on our end. But it's sort of like a average flat number that can sort of give us the freedom to work in the way that we want while also providing a fair cost for the customer to get what they need out of it and also get a return on their end. So that's something that I've been tinkering with a little bit as well is, how do we price this thing? So I think historically that's a thing that I've always been sheepish about a little bit. But I want to sort of investigate it and do it right to make sure that not only is it profitable for me as a business owner, but it would also be appealing to the client. I don't know what that number is right now, and I would need to do more research. But I think what I would be more interested in doing is to provide a more high-value product over a cheaper service, which can be sort of a bold stance, especially in this sort of day and age where there's high competitive, business competition. You want to sort of price in a way that gets customers interested, so that, there's obviously an army of customers out there who would rather pay the lowest possible amount versus the, highest amount, or a higher amount with value built in. So I think my angle for selling these products would be to establish value, establish ongoing future return, right? So when you're developing a t-shirt, I was thinking about this last night, I was writing about this. When you design a product, right, it's not like the one product, right? If you design a t-shirt, it's not finite, right? It's the concept that becomes more product, right? So you make a design and you make a t-shirt, you pick a t-shirt line and you order 50 of those t-shirts. Those all sell out. You haven't run out of the design. You've simply run out of the iterations of the design. Meaning you go back and order 50 more of those and then you can make that profit again. You go back and hit the button and hit 50 more of those, do it again. So what you're trying to do is like establish a merch setup where you keep hitting refresh and making money. It's not something where we're designing this t-shirt, we're making, and that's it. We're setting up a series of designs that you hit and sell and hit and sell and hit. So the game is to create as strong of a merch line as possible, and then use a strategy to get those out the door as quickly as possible, so you can go back and hit that button we make money, you make money, and the hits keep on rolling, you know? So it's better to think about that sunk value initially, which feels like a risk because you don't know if they're going to sell or not. The value is that we're creating something that's going to keep making money going forward, as long as you abide by, you know, certain strategies and certain, you know, engagement philosophies to actually get people to buy that item. You know, you can buy 1,000 hats, keep them in a box in the back of your business, and they're never going to make money for you. It's not our fault as an agency. It's the business owner who needs to make sure that those hats are selling. You can buy merch, but that's not going to be the end-all solution to the problem. You need to make sure that you are selling, that you are getting these things out there so that the world can buy them, and then you can hit that refresh button as quickly as possible. And the way that I've always heard it is, you know, as long as the product is good, those things sell like hotcakes. So it's understanding how to create a strong product, and then get that product to your customer as quickly as possible, so that you profit, we profit, and they get the item. The other side of that I think is really exciting about merch in general, is that your name is on it, right? So the other side of the value is not only that it's a product that you can sell and make money on, it's a promotional product that you can sell and make money on. Meaning, if you sell 100 hats or 100 shirts or 100 pairs of pants or whatever it is, those 100 shirts go out into the world, they're seen by, you know, X amount of people, your name is then spread, and then those people who have purchased those items are able to tell the story of that product and your business, which is, I think, is a really exciting place to be, right? Because you've made money on the product, you've gotten the brand visualization from that product, and then that person is doing the selling for you, which I think is a pretty wild concept. So there's 100 shirts out in the world all telling the story of your business, without you having to touch anything. So I think that's our time there. I'm going to sign off now. Thank you. This has been Notes from the Design Desk. I'm Corey Ecker with MTNBlaze Branding. See you next Friday.